This is East Midlands Today. I'm Anne Davies. Good afternoon and welcome. This is the Council House at the University of Leicester, and a little bit earlier on today, for some significant amount of time actually, this was the focus really of an awful lot of the world's media, because everyone has been waiting for that announcement as to whether or not the bones discovered underneath a car park in Leicester did belong to those of Richard III, King of England over 500 years ago. And categorically, well, practically categorically, it's a big yes. Now, this is the table where the professors, the doctors, the lead archaeologists gave that announcement to the whole world. And I'm not over-egging it to say that, because, you know, it makes Leicester a huge focus of historical interest, because historically it is one of the most significant announcements that has been made for a very, very long time indeed. Well, it all started quite early this morning. Quentin Rayner got out of bed very early to be here, and this is his report of what's happened today.
At last, face to face with England's long-lost king. Seen for the first time in 527 years, this is the near-complete skeleton of the last of the Plantagenets.
That beyond reasonable doubt, the individual exhumed at Grey Friars in September 2012 is indeed Richard III, the last Plantagenet King of England.
The first ever search for the grave of an anointed sovereign has yielded its prize. Richard III's remains were uncovered by a team of archaeologists from the University of Leicester under a council car park. It had been identified as the site of Grey Friars Church, and the king was buried in neither a coffin nor a shroud. After 5 months of exhaustive tests, the team was ready to make history. I, along with other journalists, have been allowed to see the skeleton, which is laid out in a room in the library behind me. We weren't allowed to film, and we observed the bones in silence. In all, there are 10 battle-related wounds. You can clearly see a significant injury to the back of the skull, consistent with a blow from a bladed weapon. There's also an indentation on top of the skull, thought to come from a dagger. And the spine itself is abnormal, curved from severe scoliosis, not the hunchback the Tudors would have had us believe.
In the history from the Tudors, he's ruthless, he's a tyrant, he's a serial killer. You know, and I'm afraid nothing could be further from the truth. He was nothing like that. And I think now what we're going to do, Richard III Society and the other Ricardian societies, is we're going to start getting the facts about Richard III out there.
The skeleton has been subjected to a series of rigorous tests, including CT scanning, radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis. Much has hinged on matching the ancient DNA with that of Michael Ibsen, a Canadian living in London, who's a 17th generation descendant of Richard III's sister.
I'm reeling, really, to be honest. It's difficult to absorb.
Tests on the bones are likely to continue into next year, and then the remains will be interred in the cathedral in what they say will be a dignified sanctuary. Quentin Rayner, BBC East Midlands Today, Leicester.
This is a picture again. I know you've just seen that. It's incredible, isn't it, that all that has remained for 500 years. And very interesting to hear Quentin say that everybody looked at it in silence, because although it is very exciting, it is somebody who is dead, and there will be an interment. Now, as Quentin said, it will be at the cathedral, and the Bishop of Leicester, we've spoken to him. This is what he had to say about it.
The nearest consecrated land to the point where he was discovered is Leicester Cathedral. So there will be many who expect that the remains of Richard III will find their way into Leicester Cathedral. If that is the case, I think we'd be delighted, and preparations will need to begin for making that possible.
Now have a quick look at this. This is the DNA fingerprinting, and it's amazing to think that nearly 30 years ago DNA fingerprinting was revealed to the world from Leicester, and today from Leicester we make this amazing announcement, and it's DNA which has helped identify that this is Richard III. Look at the similarity. Well, I must introduce you to the man who has done so much. Richard Buckley, lead archaeologist from the University of Leicester. Did you know before?
I didn't, no. I knew before today. I didn't find out the results of the DNA analysis until yesterday afternoon. So we had a very exciting moment when Dr. Turi King announced that, plus the fact that she'd identified a match not just with Michael Ibsen, but with another relative. So
Now, are we saying it's significant? But it really is, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazingly significant. I mean, we've gone down this route over the last 5 months from having very strong circumstantial evidence that it was Richard III, from the evidence of the grave itself, that it was very badly cut, the individual was actually longer than the grave, evidence that the hands might have been tied, etc. So there's good circumstantial evidence that fitted very well with the historical accounts.
And very briefly, what does this mean for Leicester, in your opinion, as an archaeologist?
What I think is brilliant for Leicester is that it's going to sort of instill a lot more interest in the archaeology and the history of the city for everybody, all walks of the public.
And I think it'll attract a lot of people. Listen, thank you so much, and amazing work that you did. You're coming back to us in a minute, because I'll be able to let you know how you might be able to do a little bit of forensic investigation yourselves, not to be missed. But for now, let's go back to the studio. Gita has the rest of the day's news.